So if I told you that an entire population just, suddenly gained about 17 extra pounds of weight, you'd probably expect them to slow down, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you'd assume everyday movements would just visibly become a lot harder.
Right. But what if I told you they didn't actually lose a single fraction of a second in their walking speed?
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today we are looking at this really fascinating stack of data, and we're exploring a paradox that is likely happening inside your own body right now.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the most profound physical mysteries, just kind of hiding in plain sight. We are looking at what's called the paradox of capacity versus demand.
Right.
And to actually see this paradox at work, we have to jump back a bit to the early 1990s, specifically 1993.
Right, because 1993 is when researchers really started publishing this incredibly detailed, highly reliable population and gait data, so we aren't just guessing here.
No, not at all.
We can ask a very specific, measurable question. Like, how different is the body of a healthy person in their 60s back in 1993 compared to someone of that exact same age today?
And, I mean, the contrast in the data is just startling. Let's look at the baseline weight first. An American man aged roughly 60 to 74 in 1993 averaged about 181 pounds.
Okay.
But today, a man in that exact same demographic averages roughly 197 pounds.
Wow. And for women, the shift is nearly identical. The data shows they went from approximately 154 pounds in 1993 to about 171 pounds today.
Right?
So for both men and women, we're talking about an average increase of 16 to 17 pounds per person in just a single generation.
Which brings us to the real twist here. Logically, you would expect that a sudden population-wide addition of 16 to 17 pounds would fundamentally alter how we move through the world.
Yeah, you definitely expect us to be slower.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the 1993 researchers didn't just measure weight. They published these really detailed measurements of how healthy older adults walked. They looked at, their comfortable walking speed.
Mm-hmm.
So men aged 60 to 69 walked at approximately 1.28 meters per second. And women walked at approximately 1.16 meters per second.
Right. And when you look at modern research on people that exact same age carrying those extra 17 pounds, the walking speeds remain incredibly similar.
It's almost eerie, honestly.
It is. Modern data puts men at around 1.26 meters per second, and women are actually slightly faster than the 1993 group, coming in at 1.21 meters per second.
Yeah. There is no dramatic collapse in walking speed. The outcome remains exactly the same.
Okay, let's unpack this, because mechanically that makes no sense. Think about a car, right?
Sure.
If you load 17 extra pounds of heavy bricks into a car's trunk, but you're still driving down the highway at the exact same speed, the engine is obviously working harder.
Oh, yeah. The fuel efficiency drops completely.
Exactly. The suspension is under more stress. The cost of driving goes up. So if our physical capacity didn't drop, if we were still walking at the exact same pace today as we were 30 years ago, where exactly did this extra demand go?
Well, that is the core question. Where did it go? And the answer is the demand didn't disappear. The body simply absorbed the load.
Interesting.
Yeah, it maintained the external outcome, which is your walking speed, while the internal costs of that movement drastically changed. To really understand how this happens, we have to kind of zoom in on the biomechanics of a single step.
Because walking isn't just, falling forward and catching yourself, right?
Not at all.
No.
I mean, walking is a highly complex mechanical event. Every single time you take a step, your body has to support its entire mass against the downward pull of gravity.
Right.
But it's not a passive structure like a table holding up a heavy book.
Yeah.
Your muscles have to actively fire and generate internal force to accelerate your mass forward.
Yeah.
And then, literally a fraction of a second later, other muscles have to fire to control and decelerate that mass. Your pelvis has to be stabilized so you don't just tip over. Your knee has to be controlled so it doesn't buckle.
Wow. And then that entire complex sequence just repeats, right? Like thousands of times a day.
Right. What's fascinating here is how those internal muscular forces actually multiply the load on your joints. Joint forces during walking are considerably more complicated than just placing a 17-pound weight on a bathroom scale.
Okay, how so?
Well, when your muscles generate those large internal forces to control your movement, those muscular contractions essentially pull your bones together. They create compression.
Wait, I want to make sure I'm following this. The muscles are working so hard to move the extra weight that the muscles themselves are squeezing the joint tighter.
Exactly. It's like a vice grip. And this really revealing gait analysis study of older adults with knee osteoarthritis quantified this perfectly. They found a remarkable nonlinear amplification.
What does that mean?
It means losing just 1 single pound of body weight was associated with approximately 4 pounds less of compressive force per step inside the knee joint.
Whoa. Wait, pause for a second. Think about that. 1 pound of body weight equals 4 pounds of compressive force inside the joint.
Yep, 1 to 4.
Which means, okay, let's do the math on the population data. Gaining 17 pounds isn't just carrying a 17-pound dumbbell around. Mechanically, 17 times 4, that translates to roughly 68 additional pounds of compressive force.
That's right.
Per step.
Per step. Now multiply that 68 pounds by, say, 5,000 steps a day.
That's over 300,000 pounds of extra compressive force every single day.
Thousands of times a day, year after decade. And this brings us to the central framework of all this data, which is capacity versus demand.
Right.
Capacity is what your body can do. Demand is what your body must do.
Okay, so how does that actually play out in real life?
Well, imagine 2 people sitting in a doctor's office. They both take a clinical strength test, and they can generate the exact same amount of force on a leg press machine.
Okay.
But one person weighs 180 pounds, and the other weighs 200 pounds.
Right, so on paper, their strength is identical. Their capacity is the same.
Exactly, but their functional reality, their day-to-day existence, is completely different. That second person's muscles must control, stabilize, and propel an additional 20 pounds every single time they stand up from a chair or, climb a flight of stairs or just walk across a parking lot.
Man.
And because of that 1 to 4 amplification, their joints are experiencing massively higher forces. The absolute strength on paper tells only part of the story. What matters most is the margin between their capacity and their daily demand.
But hold on. Wait. If the compressive force on the joints is amplified that immensely, 4 times the weight on every single step, why aren't people just collapsing or immediately slowing down?
Yeah.
How is the body pulling off this magic trick? If I put 68 extra pounds on my shoulders right now, you'd notice immediately.
Yeah, you definitely would. But the body avoids collapse because it is an absolute master of compensation. The population story we just discussed, the 16 to 17 pound increase over a generation, it's actually a perfect mirror for what happens within a single person's adult life. Between the ages of 45 and 75, a person might gain 10, 15, or 20 pounds. The exact same modest increments.
Just a pound or 2 a year. Like nothing alarming on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And just like the population data, their walking speed might hold totally steady. By standard measurements, nothing has changed. They are still getting from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But over those 30 years, the internal equation of load versus capacity has completely shifted. The functional reserve narrows quietly, one unremarkable year at a time, because the body brilliantly finds new strategies to keep producing the same outcome.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because these new strategies aren't conscious decisions you sit down and make. You don't wake up one morning and, draft a new movement plan.
No, not at all.
They just happen. The data highlights these incredibly relatable microscopic adjustments.
And we literally all do them.
We really do. Think about your own life.
Yeah.
It's taking slightly shorter steps than you did a decade ago. It's, circling the parking lot a little longer so you can park closer to the grocery store entrance. It's reaching out for a stair railing when you never used to need one.
Or choosing to carry one heavy grocery bag at a time instead of awkwardly carrying 2 of them at once like you used to do when you were younger.
Exactly. Or it's just, the way you rest when you get inside the house. Maybe you sit down a little heavier. Maybe you need an extra minute before taking off your shoes. Every single one of those individual adjustments looks like nothing at all.
Right. But together, they represent a profound duality. On one hand, it's brilliant adaptation. Your nervous system and your biomechanics are successfully ensuring you still get the mail, you still climb the stairs, you still achieve the outcome you set out to achieve.
But because these strategies work so well, they stay totally invisible. They perfectly mask the fact that the margin between what you can do and what you must do is actually shrinking.
And that's the danger of successful compensation. It completely hides the cost.
It makes me think of, think about your smartphone. When you have a bunch of heavy, demanding apps running in the background, the screen still looks normal, right? You can still make calls. You can still send texts. The phone is doing the job you asked it to do, so you think everything is fine. But behind the scenes, the processor is running incredibly hot.
Yeah, struggling.
Right. The battery is draining twice as fast just to produce that exact same baseline normal experience.
That is a perfect analogy. The output is normal, but the energy drain is massive.
And what happens when that phone battery finally hits 0%? The phone just shuts down. black screen. And you're shocked because the screen looked perfectly fine 2 seconds ago. We're essentially gaslighting ourselves by looking only at the result, the fact that we got the groceries inside, while entirely ignoring the rising cost of the battery drain.
And that self-deception is powerful because it doesn't happen through one dramatic, highly visible event. It happens through one ordinary, successful adjustment at a time. A slightly shorter step here, a railing grab there.
Yeah.
Nobody notices until someone looks back entirely depleted and wonders where their energy went.
Which naturally makes me wonder about our healthcare system. If we are so easily fooled by our own brilliant biological adaptations, shouldn't a medical professional catch this?
You'd think so, yeah.
I mean, you go to the doctor for an annual physical. You sit on that crinkly paper on the exam table. They might test your grip strength. They might test your walking speed down the hallway.
Right.
They look at your chart, they look at your age, and they say, good news, you're totally normal.
Yeah.
But you walk out to your car and you feel, well, not fine. You feel heavy. You feel tired. Why is the clinical environment completely missing this battery drain?
This raises an important question about the fundamental flaw of the clinical snapshot. When a doctor tests your grip strength or measures your walking speed on a specific Tuesday, they are measuring an output or an outcome.
Okay.
That single measurement tells you where you are today on that specific Tuesday and how you compare to a reference group of other people your age on that same Tuesday.
And let's be honest, that reference group is also dealing with their own quiet decline, so normal for your age is kind of a shifting baseline anyway.
Precisely. But more importantly, the snapshot entirely misses the cost of producing that output.
Because the snapshot only looks at the outcome, right? Like the text message being sent, not the background battery drain required to send it.
Exactly. Capacity is highly measurable in an isolated clinical setting. We can measure your absolute strength, we can measure your joint range of motion, but daily demand, the invisible cost of those 68 extra pounds of compressive force per step multiplied over thousands of steps day after day, is completely invisible in a standard doctor's office. You cannot see demand on an X-ray.
So they measure the one thing they can actually see and just assume the whole system is fine.
Yeah, and there's a secondary problem here. A snapshot cannot show you the direction you are moving. The source material uses a really brilliant analogy regarding human attention to explain this.
Oh, I love this part.
I want you to imagine an analog clock on the wall. If you stare directly at the minute hand, it never appears to move, not for a single second. You can stare at it intensely, and your brain will register it as completely stationary.
But if you look away, go make a cup of coffee, and come back an hour later, it has traveled a quarter of the way around the dial.
Right. The movement was never invisible. You were simply standing too close to see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is basically true for our physical capacity. We live continuously inside our own bodies. We are staring at the minute hand every single second of every single day.
Yeah.
Meaning our own internal definition of normal shifts right along with us. We literally cannot hold a pattern of physical decline in our working memory across 30 years.
Wow. So we just accept today's feeling as the permanent reality.
Exactly. Your own normal shifts with you.
So you're saying that the very tools we use to determine our health in these standardized single-point medical snapshots are actually giving us a false sense of security because they measure position instead of trajectory.
Yes, a single photograph cannot show you which way an object is moving. If I show you a picture of a ball in midair, you don't know if it was just thrown up or if it's falling down.
Right.
Only a sequence of photographs can reveal trajectory. A sequence reveals whether you are physically stable, whether you are drifting downwards, or whether you are actively improving. The problem isn't that doctors measure the wrong things. The problem is expecting a single measurement of position to do the job of a pattern.
So what does this all mean? We have this incredible biological system that actively masks its own strain to keep us moving. And we have a medical system that only takes single photographs of our position and calls it a day.
Yeah, it's a gap.
How do you, the person actually living inside this body, use this information?
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
the realization that the minute hand is actually moving is profoundly empowering. Because once you understand the illusion, once you recognize that direction matters significantly more than your current position, you reclaim your autonomy. The ultimate question for your health isn't, am I normal compared to a chart in a doctor's office?
Right, because normal might just mean you are compensating perfectly, totally hiding a drained battery.
Exactly. The real question is, which trajectory is actually mine? Are my margins expanding or shrinking? because seeing the pattern early gives you the opportunity to respond while you still actually have choices.
And those choices are actually really straightforward once you see the math. You can actively work to build your capacity, getting stronger so your functional reserve widens again.
Right.
You can work to reduce the demand, lowering the load your joints have to carry so that 1-to-4 multiplier starts working in your favor instead of against you. Or, at the very least, you can consciously adjust your expectations of what your body should be able to do without exhaustion.
The window for maintaining your autonomy, for remaining, as the data puts it, exactly who you already are, stays open only if you recognize the direction you are drifting before the margin between capacity and demand disappears entirely.
Right, because once the battery hits zero, your choices become drastically limited.
Exactly.
We spend so much time looking at the outcomes of our days. Did I finish the task? Did I walk the same speed? Did I get the groceries inside without asking for help?
Yep.
We naturally assume that because the result looks exactly the same as it did 10 years ago, the underlying system must be perfectly fine. But it makes you wonder, if our bodies are so brilliant at adapting that they successfully hide a shrinking physical reserve, what else in our lives is doing the exact same thing?
Oh, that's a good point.
Think about your career. Think about your closest relationships. Think about your mental bandwidth. What else is silently running out of capacity, inching closer and closer to 0%, simply because you are still managing to produce the exact same outcome every single day? Take a step back. Stop looking at the outcome and ask yourself, what is the actual cost of your normal?